Sometimes I just forget to turn this thing on. Sometimes. Like every week. Thank you, George. I appreciate you pointing that out. Yes. Okay. I'm trying to save the battery. I'm just being responsible. So, this is the Sunday in Advent when we just lit the candle for faith. And I grew up in a church that didn't do Advent stuff. We didn't do Christmas. We didn't do any of that stuff. We were way too holy for that. So as an adult, I've sort of made a study of what these liturgical things are. We didn't follow a liturgical year. And it's very interesting to me, and it has been interesting for a while, that the one Sunday in Advent that there seems to be a choice, if you look it up, some churches light the candle for hope and some for faith. And so I've just been really playing with what is the difference here? What is the difference between hope and faith? And do we want to light one over the other? And we used to always light the candle for hope. And just in the last couple of years, we've begun lighting it for faith. And I want to share with you a little bit about why that is. Hope, as much as we revere hope, we talk about it a lot, how important hope is. But if you think about it, hope is about placing our future happiness on believing that things will change. Usually in the way that we prefer. I hope that things will start to be the way I want them to be so that I can feel more comfortable. That's kind of how we approach hope. And so what is the opposite of hope? Is it hopelessness or despair? Is it giving up, resigning ourselves? Nothing will ever be better. This is just the way it is. We might as well get used to it. That is more resignation or despair than actual hopelessness. And the opposite of hope is really fear. Think about it for a moment. They are inescapable partners, says Margaret Wheatley, a beautiful Buddhist teacher. Anytime we hope for a certain outcome and work hard to make it happen, then we also introduce fear. Fear of failing, fear of loss. Hopelessness, not despair, but hopelessness is free of fear and thus can feel quite liberating. I've listened to others describe this state. Unburdened of strong emotions, they describe the miraculous appearance of clarity and energy. So true hopelessness, if fear is the opposite of hope, then hopelessness is letting go of that idea that things have to change or have to change in a certain way in order for us to be okay. So true hopelessness is being liberated from the results, giving up our outcomes, and then doing whatever we do from a place of it is right to do, it feels right to do, it is clear to us that it is ours to do. Then we are acting from this place of grace. We are acting from this place of true power. We are acting from the Christ Spirit, not grasping for something out there, but knowing that in here we are taking right action because we are divinely led in every moment. So we're not manipulating outcomes, but instead we are beginning to live and to act from our true nature, from our Christ spirit, from our Christ nature. And I tell you an old Zen story that probably a lot of you already know. A monk was sitting on the bank of a river, silently repeating his mantra. Nearby, a scorpion fell from a tree into the river. The monk, seeing it struggling in the water, bent over and pulled it out. He placed the scorpion back in the tree, but as he did so, the creature bit him on the hand. He paid no attention to the bite, but went on repeating his mantra. A little while later, the scorpion again fell into the water, and as before, the monk pulled him out and set him back on the tree, and again was bitten. This little drama was repeated several times, and each time the monk rescued the scorpion, he received a bite. It happened that a villager, ignorant of the ways of holy men, had come to the river for water and had seen the whole affair. Unable to contain himself any longer, the villager told the monk with some vexation, "Monk, I have seen you save that foolish scorpion several times now, and each time he has bitten you. Why not let the rascal go?" Brother, replied the monk, the scorpion cannot help himself. It is his nature to bite. Agreed, answered the villager, but knowing this, why don't you avoid him? Ah, brother, replied the monk, you see, I cannot help myself either. It is my nature to save. It is my nature to save. So what would the world be like if we each started acting from our nature? Yes, there are scorpions in the world, and they will always act from their nature. But when we are awake to our true nature, to that Christ within, to that spirit that lives within every single one of us, that was never born, can never die, and knows that nothing in this world can really affect or perturb it, what if we all began to live from that place? What if we all began to live from that place and to act from our true nature? It is my nature to save. I would say it is our nature to love. It is our nature to connect. What else is in our nature? In our true nature, in the Christ nature, which is common to all of us, that some of us are not quite awake to. I think I'm awake to it every now and then for a few nanoseconds. And I cherish those seconds, and I hope that they teach me so that I can be awake a little bit more and a little bit more. That's my aspiration, to be a little bit more and a little bit more aware. So I just used the word aspiration. So that's used a lot in Buddhism, aspiration. So what is an aspiration? It is to move in a positive direction. We know what we want. We go toward that direction. We act from our nature, and we do lead in a positive direction. It's not that we have to give up what we want. It's not that we don't get to hope for things. Boy, do I know how I hope things will turn out. But I also know that I don't know enough to really know. I don't have the big picture. I have a tiny, tiny little piece of a jigsaw puzzle that is so vast it spreads out larger than this whole nation. And I look at that tiny piece and I go, I know what I hope happens right here. And I fool myself that if this piece just turns out the way I want it to, if I work hard enough, if I make it happen, if I get enough people on my side, if I take a consensus and we get a vote and this is the right thing to do and we all work together for it, then it's going to make this whole picture turn out exactly like it's supposed to. I don't know that. I have no way of knowing that, because although the Christ Spirit is alive in me, it is the truth of who I am. I also have taken on this human incarnation where I am limited by my five senses. I'm limited by squishing my eternal, infinite spirit into this little bitty tight body that has its own needs and its own wants. And I think that I know that because this body wants this, and this body can see, oh, really, a whole half a foot in front, that I know what's good for the whole thing. And the truth is I don't. The truth is I don't. And so I can aspire to keep moving in a positive direction. I'm not going to tell you that you don't get to hope for what you hope for, or that you don't get to want what you want. But I am saying that when we predicate all of our behavior on trying to get what we want, we may be spending a lot of energy going in a direction which, if we saw the whole thing, we might not even want to go. However, if we spend our energy, our time, our attention, our spiritual practice on learning our true spiritual nature, and then acting from there, letting go of outcomes, going, this is what seems right to me. This is what my soul, my spirit is telling me to do. This is the next step that I've decided to take based upon what I know. And there is a vast picture, and I am God in expression. But I am not the whole of God in expression. I am this expression of God at this moment. I'm this expression of God at this moment. And so I get to keep aspiring. An aspiration, not a bad thing. An expectation, however, is something different. In 12-step, They define an expectation as a premeditated resentment. You expect it's going to happen, and then chances are it's not going to happen. And then you get mad because it didn't happen, because you decided that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm clear this is the way it's supposed to be. It's obvious. Isn't it obvious to you that this is the way it's supposed to be? Well, isn't that interesting? If you start asking people, it's obvious to some people, and it's completely not obvious to other people. Thus, we live in the world that we live in right now, where everybody knows the right way to do it, but everybody's doing it a different way and thinking their way is right. And so, when we stop manipulating effects and start going, if we think of effects as we're projecting onto a screen, if you're watching a movie and you don't like what's going on with the movie, do you run to the screen and try to change what's going on there? The only way you can change the movie is to change the projector, right? Is to make sure that the projector is projecting, for lack of a better word, the right movie. I'm the projector. I get to keep going back to the projector and going, what is it that I'm projecting? Am I projecting something from my human hopes, from my certainty that things should be a certain way so that people don't bug me as much as they do right now? Or am I projecting from a place of, I have no idea really all of what's going on, but I have an inkling of who I am. And when I act from that place of who I am, things are bound to turn out better, I believe, but it doesn't really matter how they turned out, because however they turned out, I will have spent my time and my effort and my energy being true to the spirit that is me. And there's no way, y'all, there's no world in which that turns out wrong. When you're who you are, when you're in touch with your true nature, when I'm in touch with my true nature, that it doesn't really matter whether I make any difference in the world of effect or not. I am here, centered and poised in the Christ Spirit, and nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. As Charles Fillmore very beautifully said, centered and poised in the Christ Spirit, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. So I start to understand, and we're going to talk about peace next week, but I start to understand that when I'm not peaceful, it's probably because I'm not centered and poised in the Christ Spirit. I'm out there. I'm standing in front of the screen like I'm at a crazy production of Rocky Horror Picture Show, trying to change things on the screen. I'm out of myself. I'm not centered. So an expectation is to feel that things ought to turn out a certain way and then to get disappointed when they don't. An aspiration is to continually check in. Who am I? Is what I'm doing right now, are the thoughts that I'm thinking right now, are the plans that I'm making right now emanating from this place of the truth of who I am? Or are they emanating from a place of, I'm watching that and I'm going to, by golly, make it different? Only we know this. But I tell you that acting from our nature is where peace lies. Okay, there's next week's sermon. You don't even have to come. Acting from our true nature is where peace lies. And, you know, Moses, very famously, did not get to see the promised land. And I'm sure he was disappointed by that. He'd gone through an awful lot to try to get his people there. But when he knew he wasn't going there, he had to give up hope that he would see the promised land and have faith that the promised land was the destination. So again, now we've come around to faith. Faith, not just that things will turn out a certain way, because once again, that's hope. That's not really faith. But faith of what is his to do, right? Not hope of receiving something. Faith because he was in relationship with something higher than himself. Because he truly was connected, was determined to be an expression of God, not to run off rogue and decide what Moses wanted and what Moses needed. But I'm sure he wanted to do that, and he did. You know, he made a lot of mistakes. You and I are Moses. We're going to mess it up over and over again. And yet, we get to keep coming back to center and going, wait a minute, why am I really here? Am I here because I decided that this is the way it should be, or am I here because something within me, this Christ spirit, this connection to all that is, this what I prefer to call vast love. That's my word for God. I don't need to think of a being or even of being, but simply love. When I'm connected to the love, then the results will be love. Somehow or other, the results will be love. So we come to faith. We've talked about hope and what it means to be hopeless in the best way, right? Hopeless as in I'm not attached to outcomes, but I'm going to be who I am. Now, faith, Paul says in Hebrews, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I hear this, believe me, I heard it ad nauseum as a child. I hear it, and it sounds like, oh, then I have faith instead of hope. I have faith that things are going to turn out the way I want them to. That's not actually faith. That's not actually faith. But if you think of faith as assurance and confidence that what is not yet visible will be made visible. Breathe that in for a minute. Assurance and confidence that what is not yet visible will be made visible, because that's the nature of the universe. What is going on in divine mind, the love of God is playing itself out, living itself out into the world. And so therefore, it will be love. It cannot be otherwise. That is faith. It cannot be otherwise, regardless of the evidence of my senses, regardless of I watched the news and no, actually I had faith, but now I know. Hell in a handbasket. We're all going there. There's no way this can work out, right? That's hoping that things in the world of effect will look like I want them to. I don't get that assurance, but I get the assurance to know that if God is love, which I believe that God is, then love will be expressed. So hope depends upon circumstances changing. Faith depends upon our being equal to the circumstances, regardless of what they are. Faith depends upon our staying connected to what we know is real and true, regardless of what seems to be going on around us. Faith, not that things will get better, but trust that no matter what happens in the outer world, the world of effects, we will be okay, because love cannot be killed. It was not born, it cannot die. Your spirit was not born, it cannot die. And here's where I put my faith. When I'm hoping and hoping and hoping and knowing, I don't necessarily get what I hope for, but I always get what love has in store for me. I believe that with every fiber of my being. I don't always like it. I don't always like how it looks, but I do believe it. And so not faith that things will get better, but that when I stay in my center, will be given the tools required, that I will acquire the skills I need, that I can be comforted, that I can have comfort and joy, tidings of comfort and joy in knowing that I could never be alone in this, that love accompanies me all the way, and that things are working together for good, for the evolution of the whole. That if it doesn't feel good right now, in some way, it's for our good, and it is leading to good. And so we concentrate not on the results, but on the value of being here, right where we are. Why would we be here otherwise if there were not some value? We are here. We took on these human births. I mean, y'all, we are God. Hello? We are that. That divine, eternal, infinite love is the truth of who you are. And yet, we sit here in these finite bodies. Why? I don't really believe that things happen on accident. I believe that there is much richness to be explored in these bodies. And so when we stay with our faith, not our hope in something out there, but our faith that we are that love in action, that love in expression, that love on purpose, not by some accident, then we can have faith that love shall be our portion, yours and mine. That is the truth of us. I invite you on this journey of faith with me this Advent season. Thank you. Let's take a deep breath and take some of those ideas into meditation, perhaps. I invite you now to just get yourself as comfortable as can be. And to simply breathe. And I'm going to remind you that in the beginning, God. In the beginning, love. And when love creates from a place of nothing but love, then it creates out of the very substance of love. So I suggest to you as you breathe that every single cell in your body is alive and vibrating with love. Breathe into it, if you will. And pay attention. Is there anything in you right now that says, no, that didn't feel like love? I'm just going to ask you to breathe some love into that. Breathe. The good thing about love is it's infinite. Can't run out of it. Not only is love in every cell of your body, but love is in every cell of your body because the core of you is love. And if love is who you are, to do is remember that, and that is where you live. That is the place from which you think. Thoughts of love become things in this world. Love is the place from which you act, and actions of love bring more love into the world. If love is what is yours to do, then you will be given all the love you need. It's already here. So I invite you to just allow yourself to feel that. It's so easy to forget because we believe the evidence of our senses, which are so limited. infuse ourselves with the idea of love, the thought of love, the remembrance of love, the purpose of love, we begin to see with eyes of love. We can open our ears to hear love in whatever sounds are going on. Not to hear only loving sounds, but to hear love in whatever sounds are going on. To feel love in whatever we touch. To smell and taste love as our living reality. This vast love in which we live and move and breathe and have our being. And perhaps from that place of just allowing love to have free reign inside you in this moment, in your imagination, in your heart, in your body, in your mind, to affirm to yourself, I am that love. I live that love. I make my choices in and as and through and by that love. And I am assured that love is not only the destination, but the whole journey there. So just take a moment again to breathe in that love, to allow it to float through you and over you and within you, to know that every breath is evidence of the love of God in your body, nourishing you, feeding you. And to feel great gratitude for that love. To say yes, to consent to the movement of that love through you in every moment. Yes. Yes. And then we are living from our faith. Love is who we are. And we trust that. As we go forward into this day, as we go forward into this week, into this beautiful, joyous season. And we remember that love is the truth and all is well. And so it is. And so love is. Amen.